Welcome to Hospitalk, the official podcast of Driscoll Children's Hospital, where we share real stories of hope, healing, and the people who make it possible. I'm your host, Whitney, and today we're sitting down with someone whose story embodies the heart of what we do here. Gerardo Muyshondt is Driscoll's Senior Director of Marketing, but his connection to pediatric care runs far deeper than a job title. Through unimaginable heartbreak, he discovered the power of storytelling to comfort, connect, and even change lives. This conversation is raw, honest, and filled with purpose, and it's one you don't want to miss. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Hospitalk podcast, Jerry. We're glad to have you here.
No, thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Before we dive in, give us your 15-second elevator pitch. What do you do here at Driscoll?
I'm in charge of the entire marketing department, and I just happen to work with an amazing group of friends here and try to have fun and just try to get the Driscoll brand out there.
Okay. Well, you spent 15 years, probably more than that, in advertising. What made you switch to healthcare marketing?
It's a very hard question to answer quickly, but basically it's a personal story, right? I mean, I had a kid that for 5 years fought brain cancer, and that just puts your entire life upside down a little bit, and career was a part of that change in me, career paths, and now I'm in healthcare and loving it, trying to apply a little bit of what happened to us, the learnings and everything, try to put them into the job I do every day.
Yeah, I love that you're transforming, your pain and what you went through into purpose here at Driscoll. We're so glad and fortunate to have you here at Driscoll. You recently put out a LinkedIn post.
Oh, yeah.
That, I won't say it went viral, but it did get a lot of response. Over 1,000 people read that article that you did, and it really was about your journey with your son, Pipe, and your journey here to Driscoll. Tell us a little bit about that LinkedIn post.
I was just, writing one day. I try to write a lot. Sometimes it helps, gets you distracted, and kind of helps you arrange your thoughts, right? And then I said, well, what if we turn this into a LinkedIn post, and see what happens? Because I do bring our experience as a family to work every day. It's there. It's an important part of why I'm here.
Sure.
So I just wanted to share it with a lot of people, because I become to realize that a lot of people that I work with today don't know much about that story. None of you got to meet my family when we were a party of 5. You just met us now that we're missing Pipe, and he passed away in 2020, and I started working at Driscoll in 2023. So yeah, it's part of the journey, but it's part of how you grow as a person, right? And sharing it helps. It helps a lot, just feeling the love of the community, feeling that people care. It helps you with the healing, and that's something that I wanted to bring to Driscoll, and make it part of the Driscoll brand at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's the reason I shared it. It's probably I needed a little virtual hugs, when I did, and it did help.
I love
It
that.
did help
Yeah,
a lot.
you got so many great comments and responses from that. Were there any responses you were kind of surprised by?
I was surprised about some people that I interact with on a daily basis, but not regularly, that really, gave very honest, sincere, very emotional messages, and I was sharing them with my wife, and I was like, it's like these people that you work with every day, and making them part of our old story at the same time, and they would have been great in that part of the journey, I wish I would have been working here when all of that happened, because the people that I met here at Driscoll, many of them have similar stories. Many people that end up in healthcare and in pediatric healthcare have similar stories, or have something that brought them here, brought us here, right? And for some people it's just a job, and that's perfectly fine, right? I mean, but for some other people there's something that just makes it a little bit special. And just with that post that you're referencing, it was a great reminder, that there's a lot of people here that also have their own stories to tell, and it makes you feel not alone. It doesn't make you feel like you were singled out by destiny, into having to go through a bad story. And in a children's hospital, you see all this support going on and this sense of community, and especially in a hospital like Driscoll. We're a non-for-profit, in an underserved community. A lot of Hispanic kids also, here, and all those things just made me. I strongly believe that I needed to work at Driscoll more than Driscoll needed me to work here, and I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, that is so true that there are so many amazing stories at Driscoll and people from all walks of life that have come here, similar as you, seeking out that purpose, to give back, really. You said something about how you wish that more of the folks you work with now at Driscoll and the people in your circle today would have been around when you were going through all of that. Kind of take us back to when your son was first diagnosed and that journey. I know it's, a difficult one to share, but if you would take us back.
Wow, I never thought about it, like comparing the two stages. That I was in a very superficial industry before. I loved it. Don't get me wrong. I still think it's still tempting, right? To think about the advertising world, and I met my wife working in advertising. I'm grateful for that industry. I love it. It was my passion as a teenager, as growing up. It's like I wanted to be part of that industry. The shooting the commercials, recording the jingles. City lights around your billboards. It was so glamorous. And well, it's tempting, but when people got diagnosed, something changed in me. Nothing changed outside in the real world. Inside of me, something changed, and all of a sudden, all those things that I had worked really hard for to achieve, all those hours of effort that I put into building a reputation around advertising, it was all about the products, the idea, shooting the beer commercials, the sunsets, traveling to these exotic destinations to get the perfect airline ad picture. All of a sudden, it didn't matter anymore. And it's because where my heart had changed. Those things were still the same. They're still a lot of fun, but they're not important for me anymore. And I think that there's a lot of people that understand that today in the place I work with right now, which is Driscoll, that I wish I could have had in my life back when I started doing that. I mean, the empathy that I see people give each other here in a children's hospital, not only to their patients or to our patients, right, but between them as coworkers. It's just something I think it would have made my journey a little bit easier, my family's journey a little bit easier, because we're closer to it, There's a lot of people I remember telling me, I work harder. It's going to help you, like, get distracted, And I was like, I can't work. I can't even think about work. I cannot even get myself out of bed to think that I got to go and meet a deadline for a script for whatever brand. My heart was not in there anymore. The passion, the drive that had led me to the advertising world, I didn't feel it anymore. And it's because every calorie, every single action that I did since I woke up and I opened my eyes every morning until I shut down at night, it was, how can I make people better? How can I make him get healthier? Is there anything that I'm missing? Is there something that haven't thought of? Is there something I can do to get him better? My heart was not in that job anymore. And I think that working at a children's hospital, even working, could have helped with that. But there, it helped. Work didn't help. It felt more like an interruption on my real mission, and my real mission was trying to get him to feel better.
Sure.
When did you find out his diagnosis?
How did we find out?
Yeah.
Patty and I didn't work together anymore. She was working for a car company, and we made a trip to Mexico together. She as my client, because I now was like, it's kind of like today, I still follow her orders, but then she was my client, and I was her agency. But we went together on a trip to Mexico for this car company. That's where the Latin American hub of the brand was. And when we came back, we saw people was walking a little funny, like there had been a regression on the way he walked, and it wasn't enough for us to like even comment it between us. It was just something that we picked up on, but we didn't even tell it to each other until they called us from the kindergarten and the daycare, and they were like, "Hey, can you come pick him up? He hurt himself. He fell down." And I called Patty because Patty had just dropped him off. Hey, so this just happened. Can you go pick him up? And she said, "Oh yeah, I'll turn around. I'll pick him up." I was still at the house. I'll drop him off. It's like, hey, babe, have you noticed that he's been walking kind of funny lately? And she just goes like, oh, God, you saw it too? And then he said, okay, I'm calling the office, we're going to the pediatrician right away. We're getting to the bottom of this, and that's how we started investigating and everything. And 2 days later, we were having an MRI. And even though they told us, let's wait a couple of weeks, let's see how this pans out. And we said, like, nah, this doesn't feel right. Let's go tomorrow. We went to the ER room. We just got the
So scary.
the MRI. And yeah, the doctors, 3 doctors that I knew before came together, to deliver us the news. El Salvador's a very small, tight-knit community, right? So I knew the 3 doctors, and
Did you know when they walked in?
I
what
knew
was
immediately
coming?
because I was sitting like on a waiting room where I could see where they had to exit an elevator to go into the MRI room where they saw the results. And I saw this good friend of mine that I had been working with who was a neurosurgeon, pass by. And I was like, hey, doc, whatever, it's like, and he was like very, hey, how are you? Like very matter of fact, kind of like handshake. And I was like, oh,
You knew something
this can't
was
be
going
it,
on.
right? He's not. They didn't call him because of my son here. But or did he? Did they? I didn't say anything to Patty. I just sat down, and then I saw Marcelo Pipe's pediatrician walk by too, and he's like, "What the hell is he doing here?" And I was like, "Oh no. And Patty was like where the cameras are right now, right? So her back was to everything I was seeing there, and Pipe was in a stretcher waking up from the anesthesia because he was only 2 years old, so he had to be put under the effects of anesthesia for the MRI. And then I just see the door slowly opening, very slowly opening, and the 3 doctors come out. Hey, so we have some news. And I was like, oh no. Yeah, and I remember the doctor's words, and he's like, we found a tumor. It's a big one, and we have to operate right away, And I remember I just fell to my knees, started crying immediately, and I started literally crawling towards Patty, right? And I remember that she just grabbed my face, gave me a kiss on the forehead, and then she immediately just grabbed her belly. She was 7.5 months pregnant. And she looking at me in the eye, teary-eyed and everything, but not dropping a single tear. And she just said, I can't right now. I got to protect Marcelo. I got to stay strong right now. I broke up completely. That woman didn't. She was so, firm about it, and she never changed, Whitney. I mean, during the 5 years and 2 weeks that Pipe fought cancer, Patty maintained that same attitude. Marcelo was born a month and a half afterwards, and everything, but she kept protecting the entire family that way. Not because Marcelo was inside of her belly anymore, but because that's the role that she assumed,
Yeah.
And she was so strong. And you can ask anybody that was close to us during all those years. They always came to me and they were like, your wife, she's so strong, And I remember there was a point in that first day of the diagnosis, Bradley, that you were asking, right? I went to my dear cousin Lisa, who was Pipe's godmother, and I'm like, hey, cuz, I think Patty doesn't realize what the hell's going on right now. And she said, you're an idiot. She understands perfectly. She's just that strong, And I remember that conversation to this day, and I was like, oh crap, I'm not. I'm there crying, and I'm an emotional mess, and I'm telling you, my admiration still to this day goes to Patty that way because the strength that she had as a mother, as a wife, as a partner in life,
Absolutely. I mean, I got goosebumps you just saying what those doctors told you because that's every parent's fear. Those words is, your child has cancer. What next steps after that were taken? When did y'all come to Texas? How soon did treatment start for Pipe?
Man, that's a great question. It's we had no idea how to deal with it. Now I can tell you that I give advice to some people. A lot of parents call us, both me and Patty, all the time. Hey, my kid was just diagnosed. It's not even cancer sometimes, but we help them navigate the system, or kind of like sometimes just even digest the news, right? And we try to help that way, the best way we can. And we have helped some kids being treated here in the U.S., but what happened with us is that we had no idea what we were doing. We were still in shock and everything, and all of a sudden you have to make all these great impacting decisions for that are going to change your life forever, right?
Yeah.
I remember I just went my doctors told me, hey, we have to do a biopsy. We don't know what type of tumor it is. And I'm like, what does that mean? So it can be benign? And I mean, it could, but everything else in the doctor was telling me it's
Right.
not, right? So we were waiting the first few days for the results on the biopsy. It came back to be an anaplastic ependymoma, which is a very aggressive brain tumor, relatively rare. Anaplastic means it's one of the nasty ones, right? That it's very aggressive, and it's rapid growing, and that it's already in a high stage of development, right? And in a 2-year-old. So was he born with it? Was he?
Right.
We don't know, right? There's so much things that we don't know. But then it's like, okay, so what's next? What do? We did a surgery. Most of the tumor was resected. I didn't know enough about that tumor to really know what that meant.
Yeah.
I learned eventually that that tumor is curable, but you have to resect it completely and then do coadjuvant treatment with radiation, and we knew that we had to do radiation because that's what the doctors told us. We went to St. Jude. St. Jude rejected us, then accepted us, then rejected us again. It was a messy navigation trying to get into St. Jude. But St. Jude didn't have the protocol that people needed at the time anyways, because a kid, when he's under 3 years old with a brain tumor and he has to get radiation in his brain, he needs a very specific kind of radiation that's called a proton radiation, right? So it's normal radiation adults receive, that's a gamma radiation. You cannot do that on the brain of somebody that's under 3. So proton is a technology that's a more novel technology. It's newer. It's less harmful for the healthy tissue. So that's why we had to find out, we had to do reverse thinking here. We had to find out first where it was available, and then where could we go get it, right? So Houston just made perfect sense, and that's how we ended up in MD Anderson in Houston. And I remember I was doing all this investigation while Patty was taking care of the kids, right? And she was in the hospital, and we were both trying to work at the time, and everything, but Patty was like trying to maintain the operation of the household as normal as possible, with the other 2 kids and people still in the hospital, and I was investigating what's next, right? I mean, where do we go from here? And I remember I walked into the I think Pipa was already outside of the ICU, so it was probably 4 or 5 days after his surgery. And I walk into his room of intermediary care, is what we call it in Spanish. I don't know if I'm translating it correctly. But I walk into the room, and Patty just tells me, hey, I put the house up for sale, And it was like, I was going to talk to you about it. Yeah, no, it's for sale, man. I mean, we're selling everything. We're going to wherever we have to go, because, and we're going to need the money to do it, right?
What was that like, having to uproot your life in El Salvador and come to Houston?
It's a decision that was mixed feelings everywhere, because you're leaving a lot behind, but at the same time, it's a super easy decision because you're doing it for one of your sons, one of your kids, and when one of your kids is on the table, right, and it's part of a decision, the decision it's not even a decision, it's just an automatic. You know exactly what you got to do, and that becomes a priority, right? I think that with time, it became a little bit harder. Because it was like you start realizing everything that you left behind. You left your friends, you left your family, you left your career, your reputation, everything that you had worked for. I mean, and I'm not talking about material things. Those are easy. When something like this happens, everything falls into a different perspective, right? And those are easy. But it's more about the emotional support that you sometimes need that you're missing. In my case, it was exciting, a new life. We made it to the U.S. We had always thought about it. We had always talked about it. Now we have to do it. So it's like we're burning our ships, and we're doing it. But then you're going through a process that's hard, that's emotional, that's full of fear and anger sometimes at the situation, and having left behind all those people that could be emotional support for you, and could have made it easier when you still haven't created that same sense of community in your new home. It was probably the hardest part.
Yeah. You talk about community and the family and community you left behind in El Salvador. And that was part of the inspiration behind this viral hashtag that you created. You mentioned this in your LinkedIn post. Tell us about the hashtag and why you chose to start that.
It was kind of like an accident, you know. I think it went. That's what technically, from the marketing perspective, we would say it went viral organically, because I mean, it was just that, you know. I mean, it was my coworkers. We were all in advertising, right? And I was about to go to the States, and I was like, how can I keep everybody that I'm leaving behind informed and kind of like in the loop with everything, right? And one of my friends, he did this logo for it, and the hashtag for Todos Somos Pipe, you know, because I had wrote something about that on the first post when I told everybody, you know, that Pipe was sick, right? I kind of like let everybody know through Facebook, and all of a sudden people started asking about him. People I knew, people I didn't know, you know. I mean, even during his first surgery in El Salvador, the word got out that he was sick. And when I arrived that morning to the hospital, I'm not lying to you, in the waiting room, there's probably 500 people there, you know, family, friends,
Wow.
people I never met before, cancer survivors that were just there to tell me, hey, look at my scar over here. You know, it's like I got a brain tumor resection. Everything can be okay. You know, cancer is not a synonym for death. You just got brought into a fight that you're going to have to fight it to the best of your capabilities, you know. And they start receiving all this love that's unexpected, and it's just full of emotion. So when we were leaving, we said, how do I keep everybody in the loop about everything that's going to be happening in the States now that we're there? So I kept on using, I shouldn't say I created it, I kept on using that hashtag, and all of a sudden it was a campaign that we had, you know. And I always tell my wife that there's a powerful song by Eric Clapton. I don't know if you've heard it, but it's he lost his son. He fell off a balcony when he was 3 years old, and he wrote a song about it, right? So I guess a composer, a singer, he does a song for his kid. I did a campaign because that you go to what you know, because you're so powerless. Probably if I was a doctor, I would have done something, but you can't do anything.
Right.
You know, I'm just an ad man. You know, I was just doing commercials for beer companies and shoe companies and banks and stuff like that. And how do I help my kid that's got cancer?
Yeah.
You go to what you know. You want to feel useful. You want to feel like you're doing something for your son more than just crying and feeling the pain.
Right.
So it became a campaign, you know. And
I want to pull up. You have a photo from El Salvador that talks about that hashtag. There, you're in the car. Maybe Bradley can help us find it.
Wow! Felipe, ¿quién está ahí?
Superman.
¿Pero con la cara de quién?
Mía.
¿Ah?
Mía.
¿Cómo puede ser eso? O sea que vos sos el hombre araña y Superman.
I love that. So tell us about that video.
So that video, I mean, that's what the Todos Somos Pipe hashtag ended up becoming. You know, it was almost a movement more than a campaign at the same time. A lot of people were doing it. That was a guy I knew from high school. We didn't go to the same school or anything, but our paths crossed at some point, right? And he was working for the billboard company locally, and he calls me one day, hey, what streets do you go when you leave your house to drop people off to the daycare? I'm like, why do you want to know that? It's like here at the company, we always get some spare, advertising placement throughout the city. And we were thinking that maybe we can lift up his spirits by doing something for him.
I love that.
And do you trust us? And I was like, yeah, sure. So this is this Google Maps, right? And this is like my house.
The route
so this
you
is
take.
the route that we go, and we ended up here. And I almost crashed when I saw it. I saw one like a couple of blocks before, and then I took off my cell phone and I recorded this one, and I was like, it was. That's his reaction right there. You can even see Marcelo, who could barely speak at the time, right? Always like, oh my God, that's Pipe, right? It's like, Yeah, but that's what I was telling you about before, Whitney. It's the sense of community, how much it helps. Uh, I think a lot of the posts that I did was honestly now in hindsight, I didn't because it made me feel better. It made me feel supported. It made me feel I was not alone. And sometimes you need to feel that, because it's scary. It's a scary fight.
Yeah.
Man, the how every night trying to go to bed and having that in the back of your head, it's like knowing that it's coming. It's coming until I taught myself into just telling myself, yeah, it's probably going to happen, but it's not today, So seize the day, live today,
Sure.
And I remember looking at myself in the mirror and saying, not today, okay. And the more time passed, his recurrences at first were once every year. In his 12-month follow-up, cancer was back 3 times. Then it was on the 3rd month, then on the 6th month, then on the 3rd month. So they were becoming closer to each other, right? And man, those nights before the follow-ups, before the MRI scans, I remember with the doctors, we called it, I'm suffering from scanxiety. That's what we called it, right? Because you were scared to death, and sometimes Patty and I would just stay up all night talking and making plans. Okay, if A happens, if B happens, and Patty's gonna hate me for sharing this one, but there was this time that we did a scan, and Pipe did great on the scan, right? And it was just before Christmas, and we were super stressed about that one because we had just moved like twice in the last year because they long stories, that we couldn't find ourselves, and we found a house, and then the house was for sale, and then we had to move again, and so we were super stressed out and everything, and Pipe did well in his scan, and I remembered that my mom-in-law, Patty, went to work, and I couldn't. I haven't slept in 2 days before the scan and everything, and I remember my mom-in-law went home with me, and then it was like, okay, so my mom arrived and to the house too, and it's like, Mom, can you stay with Pipe? My mom-in-law are gonna go out to have lunch, and we came back like 8 hours later because we were so stressed, and we made a long lunch, and Patty was like, "Why are you? I'm with your mom. It's okay. She's taking care of me now. I gotta go take care of both of you." So it's like, yeah, I mean, it's like that release that you needed, at some point, just to be with somebody else that was not necessarily your nuclear family that you can vent with, and
it's important to have that circle, that community.
It's so important, and that's one of the reasons why I think being part of Driscoll is so important to me, because I feel I'm part of that big community.
Right.
I was showing Bradley earlier today a picture where Pipe is surrounded by all the nurses that took care of him before and after every surgery, and those were people I had never met before when we started all this ordeal. And I met a couple of those nurses that I couldn't remember their faces. It's a very brief interaction you have with most of them. Sometimes it's just, and they're wearing masks and hair covers, right? And all these things. And I was, a couple of times, I was stopped at a store, and it's like, hey, Gerardo, you don't know who I am, right? And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm one of Pipe's nurses. It's like, yeah, put on the mask and everything. I would probably recognize you, because I always see you all dressed up before surgeries, right? But all these people, like they knew you by name, they knew him, and just them knowing their name means so much, and that you're not just a number, and that's one of the things that I'm super proud that happens here at Driscoll, is that you're not a number, you're a person first, and that's one of the things that I think that being community is all about, right, and that's how powerful, in a good way, sometimes social media can be. We're always complaining about social media in a lot of ways, that how negative it can be and all that stuff. But it can also, when used properly, can be amazing, right? Sure. And I'm not gonna lie, exposing yourself to social media and exposing your entire family that way, it had some dark side to it as well. A lot of jealousy, a lot of people not really understanding many things, and just assuming a lot of things. Like, for example, those ads that we were seeing a few minutes ago, some people thought that I paid out of pocket for them. It's like, oh, so this multimillionaire guy, spending all this money. No, I didn't. It was the community helping you, and it's not us. I mean, people sometimes don't know all the sacrifices that you have to make. I mean, we lost our insurance. I lost my job in the middle of Pipe's struggle. I had to sell my home, my cars, everything. I just came to the States with a couple of bags, both Patty and I, and our kids, and just hoping for the best, right? A lot of hopes and dreams, and it was hard. It was hard. It's not easy, and we don't have the amount of money some people thought that we had, and then, man, the Avengers thing happened, and it wasn't easy as well.
Well, before we get there, because we are going to talk about that, but first I want to go back to that overall community theme, social media. We've reached out to a couple of people who were part of Pipe's journey. He was a big celebrity. He was well known, and we want to play these clips for you real quick.
Yeah, I think we're going to start off with Fernando.
I try to be as close to them as possible, trying the distance that geographically separates us, not to play a part, and just to be as present and a voice of optimism through their struggles. And I do believe that, in a way, they did much more for me and my family as we could have done for them. They inspired us to always believe and have faith, and to think that things would be better in the long run, and that people would live and survive this. And in many ways, in planning or even thinking about answering the questions that you guys put to me, I come to think that they have actually achieved that Pipe does live in all of us, that he touched us all, and in a way, he's always present, and that means he's still alive. His soul, his impact is so big and strong that he will remain with us for a long time, and longer than his feet were able to walk on earth, his soul will remain with us. He did live constantly in our thoughts and prayers, and as much as I could, I would try to get others that have gone through the struggle in touch with Pipe and his story, and the story of Gerardo and Patty. And I remember one time I was covering a soccer game in Europe, and I ran into Erika Vidal, who was a defender for Barcelona, one of the most popular soccer teams in Europe, and the one that actually Gerardo supports from afar. And Abidal had actually gone through some sort of ailment that pertained or could be close to what Pipe was going through, and I asked him to provide a message of support for them, and Gerardo greatly appreciated it. And I think that was just one example of the things that you thought you could provide to them that would give them a lift. I think, again, they have done much more to us than they could actually think or even begin to understand. Their fight through all of this, their courage, their desire to go through it and to be better after it. It sends a message of love that I think we all that were touched by and are touched by Pipe's story, we all appreciate and we all carry with a great deal of love inside of us.
And how was he tied into your story?
No, Fernando, he's a lifelong friend. I can tell you some great stories, but now him being a celebrity, he probably I shouldn't. So
what is
I won't.
What does he do?
He works at ESPN. I mean, in Latin America, this guy's huge, man. I mean, he's one of the most known commentators of soccer, which is our sport in Latin America, right? All through the entire continent. And he's Salvadoran too, But he missed out mentioning a lot of stuff. Like I would text him all the time when I was watching Barcelona games, and he was the voice narrating the games, and I was like, "Hey, I'm here with Pipe." That's all I had to say, and he would go. Well, he was still commentating the game and everything, and just send Pipe a little shout out, And he did that all the time. He did that half a dozen times. I don't know if he's even allowed to do it, but he did it. He sent me a couple of messages also with people at the set at ESPN, sending us a message with all the other anchors at ESPN at the same time, and stuff like that. And he hasn't only done it for us. I've seen him go out of his way to do it for a lot of other people. I think that Fernando, being a communicator, he understands that power of community that we were talking about, right? I mean, the origins of the words are still the same: community and communicator, right? And he's just an extraordinary guy. He doesn't know how to pick his soccer teams. I can tell you that much, and he knows exactly what I'm talking about. Being an Alianza fan, nobody's perfect, but he did help us a lot. And just that message that he just sent me. I mean, I've never seen it from that perspective, but it's what you as a parent need to hear. Your kid kind of like he's still there, right? People still remember him. And that helps a lot, And here at Driscoll, we celebrated a couple of months ago an event that we call Remembering Our Children, and it's about all the kids that have been Driscoll patients that have been passed away, and all the families show up, and do like a little ceremony to remember those patients that are now baby angels, And I'm talking to one of the chaplains, to Alan, and to Paul not too long ago, our chaplains, and they were like, we gotta remind them that they are not forgotten, that those kids still live here, and we all remember them. We all remember the families. We all remember their experiences, their fights, their struggles, and as a parent, sometimes that's all you need, Just I just wish you guys would have met people, my coworkers now, my working family now, because. It just keeps him alive, But in a way, I feel like with messages like this one and all the pictures that I mean, we've shared pictures before, right, and everything, and that once I get started talking about it, I can't stop. But it helps. It helps us as parents, right? So, I guess message to anybody that's watching is like, just let a parent talk about your kids as much as they want, right? And hear them out and ask questions because it helps us, a lot.
Yeah. Well, I think we have one more special message for you.
Hey, Gerardo, I'm so excited that you're doing this podcast and that Pipe's story lives on and can keep inspiring folks all over the world. So how did I get involved? Well, at the time I was working at Telemundo, I was their film expert. And it turns out I couldn't go to the Avengers premiere. I already had a family vacation. And as I was trying to figure out how to cover it without me, I watched that incredible video that Chris Evans sent Pipe. And immediately I thought, well, what if we send Pipe to the premiere in Hollywood so that he can meet the real Captain America? And it was a lot of work. I remember that I was still during the family vacation up until the last minute trying to coordinate. And it didn't matter because I knew not only that the story was going to be so powerful and that it was going to inspire viewers, but on a personal level, the fact that a part of my job could actually mean so much and provide relief to this beautiful child, the Pipe, that is such an example of courage, determination, and joy, which at the same time is a reflection of you, Gerardo, and your family. I am in awe of everything that you did and still do for Pipe and to share his story. You are the true example of love, and that is such a beautiful, beautiful thing. I I want to say that I admire you and that I am sending you a big hug. The only thing I regret is that I wasn't able to be there with Pipe, but
Same, buddy.
it wasn't meant to be. And I just hope that you and I can finally see each other in person sometime soon.
You owe me
Sending
that.
you a big hug. Take care.
Okay, so Chris Evans, Captain America, this was obviously the man behind helping orchestrate that.
Yeah, man, these are great guys, and it's but again, I come back to the same thing when it's all about the community, right? I mean, these are two Salvadorian guys. I mean, you saw his awards, and it's blurred, but he's trying to be modest about it. But you see his awards on his back. I mean, you've been on TV, you know what those mean, right? I mean, and these are people that having all that influence, they went out of their way to use it in just to touch the heart of a 5-year-old, and what both Fernando and Francisco did is, man, I have no words of, not enough words of appreciation and thankfulness, and I don't know, man. I mean, what they did, it marked our lives permanently, and yeah, I'm Francisco. I remember him texting me, Jerry, I have a vacation, and this is the date that it's happening. It was the red carpet. Actually, it's purple, just so you know. I was there, but the red carpet for Endgame, the final of the Avengers movies, right? The most successful movie franchise in movie history, And Francisco texts me one day, and he's like, hey, Jerry. Gerardo, actually. You see, they call me Gerardo, not Jerry, right? But he's like, hey, Gerardo, would Pipe be able to travel next Friday? He was having surgery on Monday. And he was texting me on a Sunday, and it's like, I don't want to make any promises. Don't tell him anything because I don't want him to be disappointed. But I think I might be able to fly him to Los Angeles. And I remember I text the neurosurgeon, and I'm like, hey, doc, you're operating on him tomorrow. Do you think that he could make it to LA? Hey, God's on our side, man. Of course. Just say hi to Dr. Strange for me. I remember Dr. Lobo saying that, because he's a neurosurgeon and so is Dr. Strange, right? And I'm like, oh my God. Okay. So yeah, so I told him, listen, if everything goes okay tomorrow, the neurosurgeon is clearing us to travel. He says it was a tumor resection, brain tumor resection surgery on a 4-year-old, 5-year-old. But he should be okay to travel. 5 days later. We're making his dream come true, meaning the entire Avenger cast and everything, right? So that's what it came to be, but it was all because of Francisco, he just went out of his way and do it, and just out of his good heart, and just because he wanted to help, and how can I not be appreciative of that and forever thankful, and I just, my only negative thing of that is that he couldn't be there that day because he made it happen, but imagine that he made it happen and he took no credit for it. He was not even there. And I remember Amelia was the reporter that covered it, Amelia Machiavello, and she was great. She was awesome. She was super heartfelt and everything with us, and she was great. But Francisco made it all happen. And he couldn't be there the day it happened. And it was a great story. And it went viral. And he got a lot of views and likes and everything. And he was chilling somewhere else in family vacation, but made it all happen. So that talks about him not being self-interested on it. There's no self-interest on it. He just wanted to help.
Right.
And the same with Fernando. Man, it's just like it helps so much for a family to receive that support. And we as from social media just receive so much, And another thing that I wrote about in that post that you were talking about, I think I mentioned it, but I remember sitting down with Pipe, not rarely, very often, every time that I posted a picture or something, to read the comments and things that people were saying, and he got a kick of it, he liked it. He felt the love and everything, and he himself, it was funny to see a 5-year-old knowing he's a celebrity, because
he had it figured out.
We went to I remember there was this time that I met one of the most viewed talk shows in El Salvador, and I found one of them, the host in the supermarket doing grocery shopping, right? And this is a true Salvadoran celebrity, right? Like people were asking pictures and everything, and she wanted a picture with Pipe. And Pipe's like, you know who I am? It's like a 5-year-old. And I'm like, yes, I know who you are, Pipe, and
so
everything.
he knew that red carpet was for him.
He thought so, yeah, maybe, It's like they flew us over there. They treated us so well, the people from Telemundo, You know, we're so grateful with them. That was the company that Francisco was working for. You know, and I'm just super grateful with those two companies, with Telemundo and ESPN, because of people like Fernando and Francisco that are just great people, you know. And I think that it's not a coincidence that they've been so successful in life when they are that type of persons, you know, when they have those hearts, when they have those good intentions, you know. And I think that the message is that success is not, it just doesn't happen randomly. You know, you work hard for it, but you have to have your heart in the right place to receive all that love and that recognition that the people give you, and when you become a well-known person for an entire continent in their case, you know.
Yeah.
I found the video of Chris Evans. That you
Oh yeah, let's take a look at this.
Hi, Pipe. Captain America here. How you doing, buddy? So listen, I just read all about you, and I just had to let you know, I think you are so strong and so brave, and I am so impressed. You could definitely fight with us on the Avengers. We could use a guy like you. So, just wanted you to know, I'm thinking of you. Thanks for the support. Stay strong, buddy. Bye, pal.
How old was he when you guys when you guys went to the red carpet?
That was 2016, if I'm not mistaken. Pipe was born in 2013.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was his reaction? I mean, what did something like that mean to him? To see all of his, to see real life superheroes. I mean, at least two.
I think that for him it was normal, you know, because he didn't know anything differently. But you know how we got the message from Chris Evans. I keep coming back to the same thing. It was just a random love of somebody that went out of his way, and I'm talking about a guy called Joseph. He used to do cosplay. He dressed up as Captain America. That's how I knew him. He was friends with a cousin of mine, with Mirela, my dear cousin that was like Pipe's second mom, and I'm quoting Patty when I say that, you know. And I love Mirela to death. We grew up together, you know, and dear cousin. And she was living in Houston when we came to Texas. And she introduced me to all these friends, and they all did cosplay. Yeah, that's Joseph right there. And all these guys found out about Pipe's story, Mirela's little nephew that was coming to Houston, and they all dress up for him and show up to the apartment where we were staying, and they show up at MD Anderson where they were treating him and all that. And I'm like, and Pipe was enjoying every single moment of it, right? So they became friends. A 3, 4, 5-year-old became friends with all these cosplaying guys, you know, that went to hospitals in their free time to just cheer kids up, right? And Joseph sent a text to Mirela, my cousin, saying, "You are not going to believe what I just got, you know? I just received this video from Chris." He just took it upon himself to start writing emails to the PR team of Chris Evans. And he just sent, "Hey, this is the story of my friend. He's a 4-year-old cancer patient, you know, and he's struggling. He's having surgery in a couple of days and everything. It would mean the world to him if Chris could send him a message." And then he's like shaking, you know, and everything is like, I just received the Chris Evans message on my inbox, you know. It's like and this is a guy that dresses up as Captain America on his spare time. So that's like for him, you know, it was exciting, right? But he didn't ask for a video for him. He asked a video for Pipe, you know. So that's the how these people are going out of their way, doing stuff on their free time for somebody else, man. And that just, it taught me a big lesson in life, you know, of like we're always trying, sometimes just so busy looking at ourselves and what can we do for ourselves. And these people that accomplish these incredible feats at a world stage level, they do it just out of the goodness of their heart, and they don't do it for themselves. And they use their influence, they use their charisma, they use their talents, but to help others. And that's why they're successful, you know. And Joseph was the one that got us that Chris Evans video, and when he sent it to us, and I'm like, I remember watching, and I said, did he say Pipe, or is this just a random message that he sends to all the sick kids out there, you know? And then I looked at it again, and no, he starts the video saying like, "Hey, Pipe," you know, and I'm like, oh my God, how do I tell this to Patty? You know, it's like, because I got super excited. I get goosebumps just by remembering it, you know. And I remember having my cup of coffee in the morning, receiving that video, and I'm like, okay, I got to get Pipe's reaction out of this, you know. And he had surgery the next day. And so Patty and I were super nervous about it, But when we saw Pipe's reaction to the video, and he replies back, and the Chris Evans video, we posted it, and yeah, I got a lot of likes and everything. But when we posted Pipe's reaction, that went viral, and because he was so adorable, and he was just like saying like, yeah, he had been playing with a broomstick the entire morning. So he had that in his top of mind, right, Pipe, right? And when he sees the video, he's like, yeah, I can come fight. I'll bring my broomstick, And then he kind of like, actually, you take the broomstick and I'll take your shield. So it was so candid, and it's the video's right there, right next to Chris Evans to the left.
This one?
Yeah, that's the one.
¿Quién es el que está ahí?
Capitán América.
Ah, el Capitán América. ¿Listo? ¿Estás listo para la sorpresa?
Pipe, él te mandó un video para ti.
¿Ah?
¿Quieres verlo, ah?
¿Es él?
¿Quieres verlo?
Ok, ¿listo? ¿Volumen?
Hi, Pipe. Captain America here.
Hola, Pipe, soy el Capitán América, dice.
Ok,
¿Ah?
pon atención.
Doing, buddy. So
¿Cómo
listen,
estás, amigo?
I just read all about you, and I just had to let you know.
Acabo de leer todo acerca de ti y te tengo que dejar saber algo, dice.
You are so strong and
Sos
so
tan
brave,
fuerte
and I
y
am
tan valiente
so impressed.
que estoy
You could
impresionado.
definitely fight with us.
Definitivamente podés pelear con nosotros, dice.
Quería.
What day?
Quería.
You can
Oye,
fight
oye,
with
oye,
what
oye,
day?
oye.
What day?
On the Avengers.
Con los Avengers.
Pero cuando.
But when?
Oye.
Use a guy like you.
Necesitamos a alguien como
I'm
ti.
thinking of you.
Quería que
Thanks for
supieras
the
que estoy
support.
pensando en ti.
Stay strong, buddy.
Gracias por el
Bye,
apoyo.
pal.
Mantente fuerte. Adiós, amigo.
Mi amor.
¿Quieres verlo otra vez?
¿Otra vez? Sí.
No.
¿Qué le vas a decir al Capitán América? ¿Te vas a
Hi,
apuntar?
Pipe. Captain America
¿Te
here.
vas a apuntar?
I love that.
Yeah, and then you have his response where he's actually, because he said, "Do you want to watch it again?" And he's like, "No." And he when I stopped shooting, he was like, "Let's watch it again," So he saw it again like 3 or 4 times, and he's like, "Hey, Dad, I think I'm ready to respond," But get the cell phone out. So there's another one where he's like saying, "Yeah, I'll come," and making the strategy for the fight and everything. It was adorable. But I remember when that happened. I'm not lying. Half an hour after I put the video up, I had like 3 or 4 movie stations knocking on our door, wanting to interview him. And he was giving interviews, and it was super funny because I was doing political consultancy at the time, and my boss at the time was a very hot shot, high-end political consultant, and he was giving an interview on CNN, and I was watching the interview, because it was work, right? And right after him, they cut into Pipe's interview, and I was like, "Oh my God!" It's like, this is so. And my mom is there, like, "This is so random," It's like your boss is there, and then your son is there, and it's like they're on CNN. It's like, how did I raise you that way? It's like, but yeah, I it helped. It helped a lot, I mean,
I love that moment, and I see Patty getting emotional in that video too. I can't imagine how special that must have been for you all. Tell me about the actual premiere. What was his reaction stepping on that red carpet?
So that's it was only they told us they can only give us access for 2 people, right? So immediately it was Pipe and Patty, and there's a picture of Patty and Pipe all dressed up and everything to go to the premiere. I don't know if it's probably on my Instagram, but it's one of my favorite pictures of all time, and it's Patty just kneeling down, holding Pipe, and Patty wearing her amazing Captain Marvel jacket, and Pipe with his Captain America jacket, and we were in LA and everything. And I have a couple of very, very good friends in LA that we grew up together. And I had already made plans. Okay, we're going to spend the night together, and we're going to be watching all the news together, about the premiere and everything. But Patty and Pipe are going to be there. So I was like completely not dressed for the occasion. I was just in my jeans and tennis shoes, and whatever. And And then Amelia, the reporter that I mentioned a little while ago, that did a beautiful piece on us that day, that was going to air, and she was covering the entire premiere, following Pipe, right, with the camera crew and everything. She told me, I don't care if they told this to people, I'm getting you in. You know, so, and I was like, are you sure? No, but we're going to try. I'm sure I'm going to try, right? So we went there and everything, and then she was like, with the organizers, like, hey, I got these 2 passes, but come on, this is the father. Right? She's just telling, go in. And she said, go before they regret it, right? So I was in there in the red carpet all undressed, you know, and everybody's wearing jackets and everything, and I'm the completely underdressed person in the...
I recognize some pretty famous faces in these photos.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm telling you, it was...
Hemsworth.
Chris Hemsworth. There's a funny story behind that picture, you know, because the guy was coming in, right? And there were some sliding doors to the convention center where it was happening. So they come in their big limos. You have all the fans on the sidewalk and everything. Okay, this is a big one. We couldn't see it, but we heard it, right? This is one of the big ones, you know, like meaning it was either Ruffalo or Hemsworth or Evans, you know. Yeah. And we were waiting for Chris Evans. He was the one that had invited us, right? But could this be Chris Evans or is this the other Chris, right? And as soon as the sliding doors open, we had a backlight, so we can only see the shadow, right? And Pipe immediately recognized, Thor! And Pipe was standing on a chair, you know, and that completely improvised. Like you had a lot of VIPs there, you had a lot of Make-A-Wish kids there, you know, and everything. So everybody had their own spot, you know, but Pipe was just kind of like a last minute thing. So they just pulled a chair and he was standing on his chair. And he was like, Thor. And the guy was like saying hi to all the other kids, you know, and everything, but he kept on, Thor. And the guy's like, okay. So he was kind of like, okay, I have to go say hi to this kid, right? And he goes and shakes hands with him. Pipe hugs him, you know, like throw himself at him and everything. He's like, you got your eye back. Aww. Because in one of the movies he had lost his eye. But Pipe didn't speak English. Pipe only speaks Spanish, right? But Chris Hemsworth's wife is Spanish. So he understands enough, right? He's like, oh, mi ojo. Yes, I got it back. You know, and then Pipe's like, good one, man. You know? And they start communicating between. He was so sweet, you know, all these guys. Again, coming to the same thing that I think makes Driscoll so special is the community aspect of things. All these people understand that, right? And they know the power of the influence that they have. And I think that's one of the things that I see a lot in the Driscoll co-workers that we have. A lot of the people here understand the influence that they have as healthcare workers, you know, and being part of the lives of these people, you know, and we just going out of your way to be nice goes a long way with these families. I mean, all these families, trust me, we're scared, we're suffering, we're probably struggling financially, and sometimes just a little smile can change our entire day. Sure. You know, and it's free. It's free to do it, right? And these guys, I mean, they went out of their way to, out of the cameras. I mean, yeah, they posed for the cameras, whatever. That was a 30-second thing. I mean, with Chris Hemsworth, Mark Ruffalo, they stayed with us a good deal of time, you know, probably into double digits when it comes to minutes, just chatting. You know, Mark Ruffalo, he's I think that was more of a useful interaction for me and Patty than for Pipe, because he's a brain cancer survivor, and that's not a super well-known fact, you know. But he goes, okay, the cameras appear, they pose, whatever, they smile, but then the guy goes and completes the entire circle of saying hi to people, and he comes back to Felipe. And he's like, hey, buddy, let me show you something. And he lifts his hair, you know, and he shows him the scar, right, that he had here. And it's Pipe lifts, takes away his little, because of the surgery, he had to wear that headband to keep the bone in place because it had been cemented on it. Back together, so he was like holding it tight, but he took it off and they started exchanging scars, you know, like showing each other their scars, right? And the guy spent a good deal of time with Pipe and everything, and with Patty and I as well. I mean, it started with Pipe, but eventually he just started telling me, no, I was self-diagnosed, you know, like the doctors told me I was okay and everything, and I knew something was off until I walked myself into an MRI machine, basically, and asked him for a scan, and they found a tumor, and he said, hey, there's hope. He can become a survivor, you know. He starts saying all the nice words, you know, that you need to hear, right? Even though you know where you're at, because you've talked to the doctors and everything, but just the words of somebody telling you everything's gonna be okay goes a long way, you know. And at the end, everything is okay. I mean, look at our life now. I mean, we're happy, even though we went through the worst nightmare that I think a human being can never imagine. Patty and I were just talking about it a couple of weeks ago, and she was just telling me like, "Hey, babe, you know, we made it. You know, we made it. We're still together. We are because that doesn't happen every time. You know, actually, the statistic was against us in that regard, because the pain is so great, the struggles are so immense, that sometimes couples drift apart. You know, and he was our son, Whitney, right? So it's something that we both share, and sometimes staying together, it's a constant reminder, you know, and that can be hurtful, and that can be painful, I should say. But at the same time, that's where Patty and I supplement each other in many ways. Patty's attitude towards life, it's incredible. She's the eternal optimist. She's I'm the half empty, she's the half full kind of a person in that relationship. And I'm just so I feel so blessed, and I thank God every day for having her in my life, you know, because I couldn't have imagined this happening with somebody else. You know, it's impossible, you know, and I think that the reason our family is still together, it's a lot because of her, you know, and now we have our oldest kid in college, our youngest kid. We talk about people all the time, you know, every night around dinner, we pray. And every time we pray, at the end, it's like, and say hi to people for us, you know, and Marcelo does that. Marcelo remembers him. You know, we're talking about how important remembering is, right? And we take our time to remember him as a family. And after a little while, I mean, the pain is still there, but also you have to face the pain. You have to cry it a little bit, you know, and then you leave space for the remembering with a smile, you know. But it comes a lot from the support of people outside of the family too, you know. And in my case, a lot of that it's work related, you know. Like I wasn't joking before when I told you I think I needed Driscoll more than Driscoll needed me. I needed to find that purpose again after, because before Pipe's story, the purpose was making money. I want to be famous. I want to win awards. I want to be on TV. I want to have my radio show. And I had everything. You know, and all of a sudden you realize how little it means when the real important things that you take for granted sometimes go south. Life throws you a curveball and you're like, oh, I wasn't expecting that, you know, and all of a sudden everything you've worked for doesn't really matter. You know, and my new purpose in life for 5 years and 2 weeks was every calorie I burn, I'm going to try to save Pipe. When Pipe was gone, it was like...
What was it like when they told you that he could not be cured?
It was January 6, 2020, right in the middle of all the COVID craziness. He had a follow-up that day, and Patty and I remember we had a big fight that morning. We were all super stressed and everything, you know, and yeah, we went at each other that morning, and she stayed home, and I went with Pipe to the hospital because they only allowed one parent, you know, in the hospital, right? And it was terrible, man. I mean, having to face that alone, right? And yeah, the doctor just told us that they had found a tumor, and it was in the hypothalamus, and I know enough already to understand what that meant. They didn't have to tell me anything. I immediately understood, you know, this is the one. This is the recurrence that's not going to be operable. We were always wondering which is going to be the one that kills him, right? And I knew immediately, right? And I remember I was driving back. I was down 288, going back to my Houston home in the suburbs down south from the medical center. And I remember I had texted it to Pipe's neurosurgeon, to Dr. Lobo. And he just replied. I read his reply on while I was driving. I just saw the phone beep, and I just saw that. I'm so sorry, man. He didn't have to tell me anything else, you know. We all understood. right? And I had to go back to Patty, and I was like, oh my, what am I gonna tell her, man? It's like, so she's not stupid, trust me. She's smarter than I am, and yeah, I mean, she was like, okay. Same attitude, Whitney. Same attitude that she had when she received the news of the circumstances. Okay, you know.
Do you have? He was 7. Is that a conversation you have with him? How does that come about?
You know, we never had to have that conversation with him. You know that he was going to pass away. But he knew, Brad. He knew. You know. I think it was Pipe fight with cancer was a lucky one, with quotes, right? Lucky in the sense that he was always himself. He was never affected by more than the temporary, I'm recovering from surgery, logical, common sense stuff. Like, okay, maybe it hurts, maybe gotta prevent infections, I gotta do all that stuff, right? But he was a normal kid, except for the last week. He lost his eyesight because of the tumor's location. So he was blind, he couldn't play on his iPad. And then he started having seizures. But right the day before he had his seizures where he lost speech, he had already lost his eyesight. And I remember we were praying. And he just said, I just want to ask Jesus to have a party for me ready. That's the last time I spoke to him. So he knew.
And because of that, that was his journey, and his journey is still continuing now through you guys. That is what brought you here to Driscoll, is basically going through what you guys went through, and also being held up by the community around you. And so, you wanted to do something for everybody else that had supported you. So you thought that maybe coming here to Driscoll was the right step?
That's exactly it. You know, when Pipe passed, okay, the first few days are relatively easy because you have a lot of support. People come together. Even during COVID, you know, we had a lot of people around us, surrounding us, being with us, you know, a lot. So that helps a lot. But then people start going back to normal. You know, life still happening out there. And all of a sudden, I remember being a little resentful with some people that, like, they didn't call me. Or it's been a week and they haven't reached out. And I'm like, how many times have I been that person, right? Yeah, I'm here whenever you need, Whitney, I'm here. But then life goes on, you know, and you haven't called them, you know, and you have to understand that that's going to happen, right? So it takes a little adjustment there from the, okay, it just happened, all the love, to the, you know, kind of like a tsunami that just everything goes away, you know, and then all the emotions come, you know, and it's like, oh my God, you have to dealing with the new normal all by yourself. That's the hardest part, you know, that's the hardest part. And that's when, imagine after that having to try to go back to work. I mean, your heart isn't there anymore. Your passion, the drive, it's not there anymore. What, my life is about having to receive a paycheck and pay the credit card, and that's it just feels so empty. You know what I mean? After having that purpose that I had for 5 years, that was every single thing I do has to contribute to the single purpose of trying to save Pipe's life. All of a sudden, it's like, I lost Pipe. What else is there? Okay, you have Marcelo and Fernando, everybody kept on telling me. Yeah. Okay, yes, it's true. So I got to keep on fighting, you know, and I got to keep on grinding for them, right? Yeah. And when I was probably at my lowest point, super sad, purposeless, dude, I mean, I wanted to die. I'm not going to lie to you. I wasn't going to do anything stupid, but I wanted to die. You know, it's like the pain was so big. And I received this LinkedIn message, you know, random person, Terry Madden. And she's like, hey, she introduces herself. I'm a recruiter, and everything. I got this position in Corpus Christi. And I'm like, oh, Selena, For us, it's Selena, not Selena, right? Corpus Christi, that's so random. I'm never going to move to Corpus Christi. What am I going to do in Corpus Christi? I'm in Houston, I want to go to New York, Chicago, LA, right? Miami, something. And then I felt like, and then I read the World's Children's Hospital in the same message. I'm like, whoa. Miami, New York, Chicago, LA, doesn't matter. Children's Hospital, I don't care where it is. And I felt this spark again that I hadn't felt in 5 years. That work could again mean something. And we spend more time at work than we do anywhere else in our lives, right? I mean, you guys are my work family, and I say that deeply and meaningfully. I love you, Brad, and you know how I love the entire team, right? I mean, you're part of my family, and that's in many ways how we are in Latin America, right?
Well, I do want to ask you, Jerry, because we're talking about your purpose here at Driscoll, and really what brought you here. Do you experience challenges with? I've shared with you before. I attended an event with Patty that was fundraising for families going through cancer. This particular event was really about children's cancer, and they're playing this video, and this mom is sharing her story. Her daughter was a Driscoll patient who went through cancer treatments and survived. And Patty's 2 seats away from me, and I'm watching this and hearing this emotional story, and all I can think about in that moment is Patty and how she must be feeling sitting there hearing that and not having that same outcome. And how can I protect her in this moment? And I've met Patty twice at this point, right? But I wanted to protect her, and I reached over across the person in the middle of us, and I just grabbed her, and I'm like, are you okay? You are here at the hospital seeing patients who have cancer every single day. How do you handle that? And what are the emotions that come with that?
I just feel it's kind of like a calling now. I have to do this. I tried advertising as soon as Pipe passed away. I tried going back to advertising, and it was not there anymore. The spark was gone. Like I told you, like the drive was not there anymore. And I tried political consultancy for a little while, made a lot of money, not gonna lie. It felt shallow. It was so, it's not the money. I thought it was money because fighting cancer is not cheap, and I needed to get the family back on the feet, right? I'm back on our feet and everything financially. I did that, but I still felt shallow. So it's not about the money. It's not about the glory of advertising anymore. Those smoke and mirrors around the awards and the prestige and all that stuff and the glamour and big budget productions and all that stuff. I mean, it's fun, but also it didn't make me tick anymore. So when I read that message from the recruiter of working at a children's hospital, it just felt right. I was back in my element, like you say in English, right? I had lived at a children's hospital MD Anderson's not a children's hospital, but it has a children's wing in it. Just going back to that element made me feel comfortable in that element, and at the same time, I found the purpose that I had lost in doing it. So yes, it is painful. I'm not going to lie to you, but at the same time, it's gratifying. So you have the 2 salaries, right? You had the financial salary, which is important. We all need it. We all need our lives to go on, and we all have commitments and all that stuff. But having that emotional salary attached to it, it's so meaningful, And when you do that, when you combine those two, because you got the financial one attached to it are all the family responsibilities, and you do it for your kids. You're doing it for their future and everything. So there's a big drive there. But supplementing it with it's what I can only define it as passion, and I found my passion again when I took this job. And I try to take it very seriously, and I try to, sometimes I get frustrated because Driscoll is a big company. Some people don't realize how big it is sometimes, because they say, oh, it's a small hospital in South. No, it's not small.
Yeah.
We're 4,000 plus employees that work here. We have 2 hospitals. We have 34 subspecialties. hundreds of thousands of patients in 72 years, that have gone through our doors. And just feeling that you're helping some of them, finding dignity in healthcare, finding the human element in healthcare, being called by your name, being spoken to in your language, being treated as a person in here. And being part of that makes me feel so proud, and some of the proudest moments I've been in Driscoll. I remember this lady that was walking with her kid on the hallway. She just looked, I could see myself in her, like how she was lost, scared, intimidated by this big hospital with a baby with a baby in her arms, a baby boy in her arms. And I was like, that's me 5 years ago. I know exactly what she's feeling, and just asking her, hey, may I help you? And immediately seeing that she didn't speak English, and then speaking in Spanish to her, and she immediately starts talking back to me, and I just walked with her, to wherever she was heading. Not because she was lost, not because she needed it. I needed it too, I needed it to feel that I was being helpful, And I think that there's a lot of people like that here at Driscoll. And some of the stories, we talked about them, and Bradley, you do a great job, my friend, telling some of those stories on the videos that you do. And I think it would be great to probably in this podcast share some of those links, so that people can share some of those stories. But you see some of those inspirational stories inside of Driscoll that they just motivate you to come in every day, and no matter the frustrations, no matter everything, you just do it, And I remember with Sean, our boss, once, that I was complaining and ranting about work, and he's, oh, so you're having a bad day, walk with me. We walk around the hospital, for 10 minutes. He was heading to another meeting, so he just remember what we do, why we do what we do, And you're like, yeah, yeah.
For marketing, you come from marketing from selling products, and in this case, the hospital is technically the product, but how do you market that?
It's a good question, and I don't have a single answer for it, but we've had conversations about it, behind the curtain, and for me, it's all about the emotion, right? In marketing a hospital, it's complicated because it's first of all, I was working with one of our partners yesterday, and they provided some results on some market studies. You know that healthcare is the industry where consumers hold you to the highest standard. It's like the expectation that they have for healthcare organizations. It's not the same that you have for, I hope the movie is good when you go to the movie theater, right? Or I hope that the car is good when I buy a car. I hope that the airline doesn't lose my luggage. With healthcare, the expectations are so high, right? So if you want to come to work at healthcare, you have to know that you're going to be held to a higher standard. Now, if you're going into pediatric healthcare, it's even higher. So I like that part of the challenge, right? But then answering your question, how do you do it? What do you sell? For me, it's all about the empathy. Sell the empathy, sell the dignity, sell that you care, because it's called health care, right? It's not only about the health, it's about the caring too. And for me, the caring, it's a huge part. And you've seen how people react to the content that we put out there in social media. Yes, we talk about the excellent outcomes that Driscoll provides, and you've seen the data, the raw data with me, Bradley. You know that Driscoll is a great hospital. We do have the numbers to back up that the healthcare that we provide here in Corpus Christi is exceptionally good. However, we can not only say that to the community, oh yeah, it's good doctors. It's not enough. The good doctors, yes, but with the good care that they provide too. And the care is the entire system, right? It's, in marketing terms, we talk about the customer journey, right? The customer journey starts when the moment you think about getting a pediatrician for your kid. That's when it begins. So it starts with the website. It starts with the Google searches. It starts with the pictures that you see of the facilities that you're going to bring your kid to. And then it continues with the first person that receives you when you cross one of those doors. It's the wayfinding. It's the cleanliness of the facility. So everybody from the environmental services people to the receptionist at our desk to the doctors that perform amazing open heart cardiothoracic surgery, we're all in it together. And that's why the slogan of this company is "Together we heal," because we all do it together. And it's a battle cry also towards the inside of the organization, because we're all part of it. I mean, it only takes one of us to ruin the experience for the entire patient, in the relationship with the brand. So we all have to be in it together, right? It's together we heal. We do it together. We heal every kid together. But think about it this way. When a child gets sick, the entire family suffers with that child. But also the entire community suffers with that family, because that family is part of the community, right? But what happens when we treat a kid successfully and when we get them back to being better? The same cycle reverses, but in a positive way. The kid heals, the parents feel amazingly well, and so does the community. So we not only work together to heal them, we heal with them. So that's the double meaning of that powerful word, that's together we heal. And even if I had to live Driscoll today, for whatever reason, I think that just having left that cornerstone for that part, of how do you sell healthcare, but by developing that sense of community, by getting the employees involved in that battle cry and understanding and trying. I mean, it's an ongoing process, right? I mean, we're not there yet. We have to continue doing it every single day of our working life, right? And but that's in my opinion how I think healthcare marketing should be done, and that's why I take it so seriously, and because I need that passion to stay alive, as I was telling you, and that's why I try to do it and bring everything I can, the best of my capacity every single day to work. And I sometimes push you guys hard, probably, Brad, but I do it because I believe that we're helping other people by doing so, and it's more than just not just for the paycheck, which is good, but yeah, we all need it. and thank you, Driscoll, for it. But
I love the Together We Heal brand that we've really, put together over these last few years. We've talked about the community aspect. I want to dive more into the family aspect of it. We've talked about Patty's emotions, and your other son, Marcelo, who we saw in one of the videos there. Really, when a child's diagnosed with any kind of illness, but especially a life-threatening one, the whole family is affected and is involved. Yeah. How did that play an impact on your family? And, we see that with families here at Driscoll, but I want to hear more about your experience and your family's journey with that. It
takes a village, they say, right? And, there's not a direct translation for that saying in Spanish. I wish I had it because I could never explain in Spanish in a single sentence, like it takes a village, right? To raise a family, to raise a kid. But that's exactly it. We come back to the same magical word, community, right? For my family, whenever we were not there for each other, and there were moments, I'm not going to lie to you, we were all suffering, we were all scared, we were all angry at the hand that we were dealt by life, got angry at God occasionally, but there was always somebody who we could turn to, right? Most of the time it was family, not the nuclear immediate family sometimes, but the extended family sometimes. Sometimes it was a friend, sometimes it was a perfect stranger, right? But I in my case, I consider myself extremely lucky that I come from a very big Latino family, right? So we're all very tight. First cousins, uncles, las tías, los tíos, everybody, My brothers were amazing. My sisters-in-law, especially the American one, we were surprised. All of us were surprised at how lucky my brother was to find an American wife that she's more Latino mindset in a lot of ways than we are. Which we love Faye, and Faye was incredible, to Patty, to me, to our kids, to Fernando, my oldest son, Faye and Federico, my brother and my sister-in-law. They were always like with an eye on Fernando, my oldest son. Sometimes I took it for granted, and I have to admit that. And I talked about it with Fernando. He's 20 years old now. But we sometimes we're super concerned about Pipe, that we overlooked him. Obviously not intentionally, right? But you as parents sometimes make those mistakes. But Federico and Faye were always like keeping an eye on him. They live in New York, unfortunately, but they were always. And my brother is a super busy executive and everything, and Faye's running her own company. Everything. They still made the time to always come to where we were. Christmases, New Year's, in the middle of cancer treatment. Well, for them, life was always. They had to take care of us and be, like very close to us. I remember my brother even, I was selling my house, I was doing all of this and everything. We were kicked out of the hotel. We didn't know where we were going to spend the night, My brother was in a meeting in Dallas. He made a trip to Houston. He was desperate because he had gone to Rice University. He knew Houston well, but he was trying to find a place for us to spend the night. And I think it was Super Bowl weekend or some crazy thing like that. We couldn't find a place to stay. And we finally found an apartment, and everything. And my brother was like, dude, just don't worry about anything. We got it, we're paying for it. I already talked to my wife about it. Just don't worry about it because I know later, we'll talk about it later, And so that's how they stood up, So yeah, the family part is super important, but it doesn't stop at just patting myself and my kids, right? It's a bigger aspect of it. And then there's what I was telling you before, the work family. That's one of the biggest clashes culturally that I have faced coming work here in corporate America, right? In Latin America, you tend to develop more personal relations at the workplace in a friendship kind of way, right? Like you hang out outside of the office a lot, I'm best friends with some of the people I worked with in the advertising world to this day, they were my best men at my wedding, or stuff like that, and it's here in corporate America, the bigger the company, sometimes the relationships are harder to build for what I'm used to, But the word family, when I use it, it involves people that you're not necessarily blood related to, and it's my work family. And even the work family I have today, even though you were not part of my story, you have no idea how much you've been helpful for me and my family, and how grateful we are of just having the opportunity of letting us be part of the Driscoll family, and those coffees that we sometimes have in the pantry, and we just start talking about anything and everything, and that for me is what builds that rapport, that transcends and makes you work even harder because now you don't want to disappoint your friend too, you know what I mean? It's not just about being coworkers. It's like, you and I are friends. If you send me an email asking for something, I better reply, because I cannot let you down. It's more than just work, right? And that's what I like to bring in here. And going out of your way to help others is something that this hard story made us learn,
Family is an important part of it. And Bradley reached out to somebody who's part of your work family and your family. We've got a little surprise message for you that we really want to share.
Pipe's legacy, Pipe's passing really allowed Marcelo and I to have a very, very strong relationship. And I think that that's just Pipe's way of saying, like, hey, I'm no longer with you, but this is what I left behind. I left stronger connections. I left, a younger brother who you can count on. I left our parents behind, but you know what? I am very, very, very confident that my dad, my mom, Patty, we're all very close and we can all count on each other. And I think when these type of things happen, either one or two things happen. Either you completely, separate yourself from your family, you struggle, you're by yourself, or you get even closer as a family, as a group. And I think that Pipe, he did that to us. I mean, he made us connect and get even closer as a family. And I think that's his way of saying, his blessing. And I want to think that that's his legacy. And I like to tell people that Pipe allowed us to be even better people, and be even closer than ever. And I think that's something that I'm very grateful for. and I know Peep is happy about.
I see you getting emotional over there. This is your oldest son, Fernando, who's interning with us, interning with you.
The intern.
How does seeing that? What emotions do you feel watching that?
Peace. It's just peaceful. My biggest scare was dealing the after. I mean, we were all kind of like holding it together, while we were struggling and fighting and everything. But the aftermath, right? Are we gonna stay together? Are we gonna? I mean, he could have easily said, "I want to do drugs. I'm a victim," or he could have easily said, "I'm not turning back. This is too painful. I'm just going off to college and never looking back. I'll send you the bill or whatever." We decided to stick together, and I think that makes me feel at peace. That's when I can say I think we made it. We made it. We survived, and it makes me feel very proud of the family we are. We're gonna be okay.
Yeah. Well, we're certainly glad that he's here with us for at least a short while, and we're getting to, get a different look inside another important member of your family. Jerry, you spent a lot of time in obviously a hospital setting prior to coming to Driscoll, and now you've been at Driscoll for how many years now?
A little bit over 3 years.
3 years. So what's one thing that you wish more people knew about a children's hospital?
Miracles happen here every day. That's I think what I think people don't realize when they're driving past the children's hospital. Magic is happening in there every day. People are coming together. I mean, the amount of prayers that are happening inside of that building every day. They just have an aura. Children's hospital, they emanate this energy for me. That just feel it. If you're open to feeling it, you just feel it. It's and I just think that the insight that I would tell anybody that asks me that question is, you would not believe the amount of special people that work in there. It's not just a job for a lot of us, and even if it was, trust me, it will grow into being personal very quickly to most of us, because how important it is what's happening in there. You see the families, you're close to the families. Oh man, you feel you want to do so much more. If I could do so much more, and my dream is, I wish I could make it in life financially to the point where I can become a donor of Driscoll, and that's what I want to do someday. It's like give back to the opportunity of of being a part of this work family right now, because I know how Driscoll is helping a lot of kids out there in the community, and being Hispanic, having lived my entire life in a third world country, being close to extreme poverty my entire life, having seen it firsthand, having done my share of helping back home more than once, it's just never enough. You can never help enough, because there's always going to be people needing it. And I think I think that the thing that people don't know about or realize about a children's hospital is how many special souls work in there,
Yeah.
And like I said before, the stories Bradley tells in every single day, they're mostly employee stories, 2 NICU babies that coded simultaneously, twins, were saved at Driscoll 25 years later, and they're receiving orientation to become Driscoll nurses. Teachers that lose a kid, and then they want to create a classroom inside of the hospital to bring a sense of normalcy to the kids that have chronic illnesses and are Driscoll patients 25 years after losing their kid, and they're still here. Yeah. You see a nurse and a child life specialist that adopt a little baby with cardiac issues that was left and abandoned at Driscoll, and give her a forever home. Those are the things that we from the marketing department have had the privilege of being able to tell those stories for the rest of the community to learn, and they're not hard to find inside a place like Driscoll, and I think that's the biggest kept secret is like, why are these people so special? Well, because they know what you're going through as a person. A lot of them know what you're going through. A lot of them, I was not one of them. I mean, trust me, I wanted the glamorous, artificial, self-gratifying life that I was living. Pipe changed me. His experience changed me. I would have never worked in pediatric healthcare if that wouldn't have happened to me. And a lot of people that are here just have this calling, you know, and they're so special and they get it. And I'm still very good friends with some of the nurses at MD Anderson and I see that those guys still keep on helping people and trust me, they've lost a few and they still show up to work every single day to help the new ones. And the admiration, you know, that I have for people that do that is beyond words.
Driscoll is such a special place, and you're absolutely right that the stories that marketing puts together really help share that with the community, let them see so many people in the community. I rarely go anywhere where somebody hasn't been touched by Driscoll, either personally or know of somebody who has. Yeah. And I think that's really special, you know, especially for somebody like you and I who are not from this region, who aren't from Corpus Christi, to come in and be a part of that and see that firsthand is really special and inspiring. I love the stories that are put out. You named several really great ones that we have here. There are hundreds just like it, right? Both employees, patient families, the community. I want to talk about your next steps. At Driscoll, in your personal life, you know, you talk about wanting to eventually give back. That's your goal. That's your vision. What does that look like for you?
Well, at Driscoll, I think it's like everything in life, right? You wanna look back in time when I got here versus whenever you have to leave. I hope it's because I have to retire, you know, not because I leave earlier for whatever reason. But I just want to feel that it's a better place than when I came here. Better can have a lot of interpretations, but better from the marketing perspective is just to be I wanted it to be a place that I know that the healthcare that we provide, there's a little catching up to do with what the brand performance is or what the brand feels and looks like, you know, and a lot of giant steps were already taken in that direction before I even got here. I mean, we see it here in the logo that we have. I had nothing to do with that, you know, and it's a great logo. I think it represents Driscoll really well. And just having it's a big responsibility to try to take it to the next level. But I think that it's a big challenge because the healthcare that Driscoll provides is so good, you know, that taking the brand to be at that same level, it's a challenge in itself. But that's professionally where I see myself helping Driscoll or trying to help Driscoll to the best of my capacity. Personally, Fernando was mentioning the word legacy. Fernando, my son, my Fernando, not the other Fernando. Pipe's legacy, you know, I want to do something to keep his name going, to keep his legacy going, to perfect strangers, you know. And I remember when we came back for his first follow-up, my family back in El Salvador was in the coffee business. My grandfather was a coffee guy, right? We had everything, you know, related to coffee, and I brought everybody coffee from our plantations, you know. Every single employee we had contact with, we brought him a little coffee bag, and with Patty, we always said, you know, when this is over, and meaning either Pipe passes or he makes it and he's a survivor, we should honor him by having a coffee brand, you know. And so right now we're working on that project. We're getting closer, but we're two very busy professionals, right? So, but hopefully the intern can help us with that at some point. But yeah, my dream is to be able to successfully launch the Pipe Legacy coffee brand and do a social entrepreneurship where part of the proceeds of that brand can go to help a non-for-profit, you know, and especially to help kids with cancers. Hopefully here at Driscoll, maybe somewhere else, you know, but to give back because we were given a lot. You know, we received financial support from friends and family and the community and perfect strangers and non-for-profits out there. it's our turn now to be on the other side of the helping end of things, maybe be the helping hand that's giving, not receiving. So that would be where I personally want to go.
I love that. Can't wait to try it. I hope you'll bring us all a bag.
Oh, there you go. Asking for a free sample. All right, yeah, well, we can make that happen.
I'm going to hold you to it. Jerry, your team has won numerous awards since you've been here. The marketing department's evolved incredibly in the short time that you've been here. What would you say is your proudest moment, your best achievement that you're most proud of?
Wow.
You don't have to say me.
Well, I think that I think we have a great team, and I think that I cannot pinpoint the exact moment, but having assembled this team, I think it was make me the proudest. Some of the people were already here, like Bradley and Nicole, who are amazing. One of the best, most professional people that I've ever worked with, talented too. Man, Nicole, the drive she's got, the energy she's got. Oh my God, it's like this woman is like unstoppable, and she keeps us all marching. I'm her boss technically, but she's great, to work with and everything. And Bradley, Nicole, Megan was, I think, the one that came afterwards, and we started building this team of like-minded individuals, and I feel very proud of that. And what I mean by that is that we don't settle. We're always wanting and trying and desperately wanting to be better, to do more, to not be mediocre, and we take our jobs extremely seriously while having a lot of fun and building very good relationships while doing so. I mean, it's a two-way street. When I call Bradley my friend, I'm pretty sure it's mutual. The same with Nicole, I mean, it's not like we hang out at the office every single day or anything like that, but it's people I really trust. It's people I can talk openly to, or people that's easy to work with them because you can give and receive feedback in a bilateral relationship, that makes us all be better. And I think that having that camaraderie, that's how you say it?
Mm-hmm. Camaraderie, yeah.
Having it helps, delivering a better product at the end of the day. And that product, I strongly believe it eventually cascades all the way down to helping our kids. And when I say our kids, yeah, I mean it. It's because they're our kids. They're somebody else's kids, but at the same time, we have a shared responsibility when they cross our hospital's doors and they become ours. All Driscoll employees, right? So I think my proudest moment would be looking back, and we've had this discussion with Sean. I think we've had it with you a couple of times. It's like, wow, you remember the team has grown. I mean, because some positions were empty. It's not that we replaced people or anything, but it's like the people we have right now, even the new people. It's easy from an interview to just say, she's one of us, Yeah. Happy with 90 that's sitting right there. It's like you immediately can tell, like, you know what? Yes, this is a person that fits. Because we already know what we have going and that passion and everything. And we're always looking for that same passion. Yeah. We're always looking for that same eagerness to succeed and to do better every single day. And the awards are a consequence. They're not the result. They are a result, but that's not what we're trying to achieve. It just comes with it. It's the journey that makes it interesting. And yeah, we won a whole. I didn't expect to win as many as we did, but just having the Driscoll brand in the same category or in the same winners list where you see brands like John Hopkins or the Ochsner Clinic or St. Jude, and you see this little hospital from Corpus Christi, representing there, it's like it feels great because that means that it eventually goes back to our kids. That's what feels great about it. It's not the recognition or anything. I mean, it's just a validation that we're doing something we're going in the right direction and we're doing something special. And it keeps us motivated, the award winning and everything. And sure. Okay, we pat yourselves on the back, but at the same time, this is and Bradley won't let me lie. It's like we have this conversation frequently. Okay, this is the new normal. I mean, and I use the basketball analogy with Bradley all the time. It's like Michael Jordan, whenever he didn't score 40 points a game, he had a bad game. He only scored 33 today, I mean, I'm okay with being held to that high standard, and everybody else holding us to that high standard. Because when you're on the other side of the children's hospital equation, which is on the parent side, that's what you want. You want the best.
Well, you've put together a phenomenal team, a couple of members of your team here in this room with us. What's something that your team does not know about you? And you wear your heart on your sleeve and you're an open book, so that's going to be really difficult, I'm sure, to come up with. But what's something we don't know about Jerry?
You don't know about me?
There's probably nothing.
Yeah, I talk a lot. You know, as you can see, right? I mean, it's
we're rolling up on 2-hour podcast. This is a normal meeting for me with him.
What can be that? I can tell you something. You're not going to be surprised, but probably we have never talked about.
Keep it
before.
appropriate for the podcast.
Yeah,
though.
no, yeah, I will. I'm a middle son. I come from a family of my dad were 6 brothers, all male, 3 brothers, me and my 2 brothers. I had 3 kids. You know, I always wanted a baby girl in my family. You know, and it's my only thing on my bucket list probably is that I could never have a baby girl. You know, but hopefully the intern someday, you know. Will give me a granddaughter.
Your son, yes.
You know, but yeah, it's like every time with Patty, it's like we see the daughters of our friends and everything. It's like we both melt, you know. Yeah. But at the same time, one thing that Patty says is like, I'm just so grateful I never had a daughter, and I'm like, why? Because there can only be one queen in the house.
That's true.
Me, you know. So and Patty comes from a family that's similar, where she's the only woman. You know, so she likes daddy's attention, the 2 brothers' attention, my attention, all the kids' attention. And she walks, you know, like okay, so yeah.
We're probably going to have to cut this part out of the podcast, aren't we? You're going to get in trouble. Well, I love that. Thank you, Jerry. We appreciate it. We're, like Bradley said, I mean, we were able to have a long conversation here, an emotional one, nonetheless.
Very therapeutic.
Yeah.
For me it is, guys. No, thank you. I'm thankful that you let me talk about this, you know, because it helps us. It helps us with the healing, you know. Parents that have gone through this stuff, just keeping our kids' memories alive and actually feeling that other people care about your story helps a lot. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you for all that you do at Driscoll with marketing and sharing our story with the community and for sharing your story today and your heart with us. You know, there are so many stories at Driscoll, like we said, that really talk to the inspiration behind why we do what we do and what leads people to Driscoll. And you're part of that story now. And so thank you for sharing that with us today.